Good morning, Year 5, and welcome to Friday's English lesson. Yesterday we planned a story based on The Way Back Home, the picture book that we've been looking at all week. And today we're going to start writing it. And we're going to try and use interesting verbs in our sentences to write our trigger and journey paragraph. So first of all, what is the purpose of an introduction to a narrative story? Well, it has to hook the reader. It's going to have to make them want to read on, not put the book down or the story down straight away. It has to set the trigger for the main events of the story that are yet to come, and it has to start to introduce the main character. So let's look back at the opening intro of The Way Back Home. So it starts, once there was a boy, and one day, as he was putting his things back in the cupboard, he found an aeroplane. He didn't remember leaving it in there, but he thought he'd take it out for a go right away. So in a very simple way, the beginning of this story manages to introduce the main character, there was a boy, set the trigger for the main events of the story, he finds an aeroplane whilst he's putting his toys away, and it hooks the reader by sending him off on a journey, so it makes them want to read on, and that's what's really important about any introduction to a story. And one of the word categories that's really important here are verbs. And a verb describes an action or an occurrence. Sometimes we call them doing words. Okay. And they are really important in our story. And it's really important that we choose the right verb for the right job. So you could just say the boy ran across the playground. Yeah. But what about he raced or he darted? Okay. Or he sprinted? It tells us a lot more about how he did it. It might tell us a bit more about his mood as he was doing it or the purpose behind his action. So let's have a little think. What could we think? Are there other words that mean things like make? So perhaps he made a rocket. Okay. Now, what else could we use? Well, my ideas were he could create, he could manufacture, he could assemble, he could build, he could construct, he could produce. So today, when you're choosing verbs, okay, don't be frightened to get a scrap bit of paper and jot down the verb that you're thinking of, and then thinking about some synonyms. They're words that mean the same, okay? And you could use a dictionary to do this, either online or a book dictionary. And write down the different ideas that you've got and then try and choose which one's the best one that you're going to use in that part of your sentence. Okay, so today we know you've planned really exciting and adventurous ideas of how your character ends up in space, but I'm going to base mine on the actual story. So today we're introducing the character and we're setting the trigger for the main events of the story. So what is our trigger? Well, we know our character's bored of the same old toys, he was putting them away. We could say shoved, that's a better verb, isn't it? In the cupboard. And in the cupboard, he finds something far more exciting to play with, something that's been hidden away, and he couldn't even remember it was there. It was a plane, and that already hooks the reader because we know he's now got something to go off on a journey on, so it's going to lead to the next part of the story. Now, which interesting verbs have I used in my plan for this stage? Well, I've changed put to shove and I've thought about hidden. So as you're doing your plan, I want you to be thinking, particularly for the section that we're going to be writing today, have you got the best verbs in there? Now, here's my modelled right. Playing with the same old toys, the boy, who was incredibly bored, shoved them away in his toy cupboard. Searching for something new, he squinted in the darkness as he spotted something hidden at the very back. Excited, his hands grabbed the something with both hands and tugged it out from under the old forgotten pile. It was a plane. So have I used all my planned ideas? Well, I said he was bored with the same old toys. So he's been playing with the same old toys and he was bored. Yes, I have. Was he putting them away in the cupboard? Yes, he was. And did he find something more? Yes. Now let's have a look at the verbs that I've used, and I'm going to underline them as I go through. So I've got here playing with the same old toys, the boy who was incredibly bored. Here's the one I wanted, shoved them away in his toy cupboard. Then I've said searching for something new. He squinted. He didn't find or see. He squinted in the darkness and spotted, that's another good one, something hidden. Then I've got grabbed and tugged. There, I think I've underlined all of them. I'm quite pleased with those. So therefore I'm going to move on. But don't forget, when you are doing your writing today, when you've finished, make sure you go through and check that you've chosen the best verbs for the job. Oh, your turn. It's your turn to write the first part of your story. Don't go any further because there's going to be a new target for your second paragraph and we'll go through that tomorrow. You need to make sure you set a trigger for the main events of the story and you think about the interesting verbs to describe what the main character is doing. And I want you to start with the same sentence. Once there was a boy or girl, doesn't matter which, okay? And then you need to carry on, just like Oliver Jeffers did with his story. You must make sure as you write your story that you're writing it about the boy or the girl, so the person has to be he or she. And it's also the story's happened, so you're writing in the past tense. We've done a lot of work about that lately. Finally, when you've finished your writing, I want you to check it through. Have you remembered all the non-negotiables we've been talking about all term? Does your writing make sense? If it doesn't make sense to you, it's not going to anyone else. Can you identify and underline the verbs you have used? And then I want you to use the checklist to assess your work. Only tick an item if you can find evidence of it in your writing. And the evidence you find you can write here, where it says example in the text. So can you find powerful adjectives? Can you find a variety of sentence openers? A complex sentence, we did those on Tuesday. Can you find commas? Perhaps to separate the clauses in your complex sentences. And from today's lesson, can you find interesting verbs? And does it make sense? Good luck with your writing today. I'm sure it will be brilliant. Can't wait to see my classes. And I know Mrs. Roberts and Miss Bridges are really excited to start reading the stories that their classes produce. Happy writing. I'm going to leave you now to get on with it. Goodbye.